We made it. Can we hear myself? Yes, I can hear myself. Guys, we are here. We are live. This is the great transition. The great transition. What is that, you're asking? I knew you were asking because it's kind of weird. You may have heard other similar things like the great, what's one of them? The great resignation and the great
Great reset.
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 It's not those. That's not what this is. This is the great
Those
transition.
are not great.
Those
This
are
is great.
those aren't great. This is great because we're talking about something it's the first time it's happened in all of history. I guess you could say the Great Reset too, but the Great Transition. What's happening? The world is going through some crazy stuff, and if you're living in this time, then you're probably thinking it's just like normal life. But if you're able to zoom out a little bit, look at the timeline of history, then you could see this little blip or something. If you want to look at a graph, you'll see like a blip, and you'll be like, oh, what's happening there? That's when the world stopped performing or behaving the way that people wanted it to, because nature has different plans, and it says here, start behaving this way, start polluting this way, and you'll see that later on down the line, it's not gonna work out for you, for all of humanity, and it's not gonna work out for nature. And at the same time of doing that, what's really unique about this time is that people are starting to say, okay, yeah, something's not working. So for the first time, people are saying this is not working, and they don't really have the answers for that. But here on the Great Transition podcast, we are trying to supply a little explanation about why it's not working, and from what aspect. We're explaining a little bit from the wisdom of Kabbalah, how it sees all of the development of humanity, and how it sees the people in this picture, in this little timestamp that's happening right now, what's happening with them and why they feel that way. And it just works for some people to hear it. So we're just here to explain it from that point of view, and we've got some things to talk about. This is Seth up here. We've got a soft down there. Well, for you, it's up and down. I don't know where. We are Kabbalah students for a few years now, and we're happy to be here with you. Whoever's joining us, anyone who is joining us for the first time, we're saying hi. If you want to stick around, you can stick around for an hour and a half this time. It's a special. We decided to go for an hour and a half, 90 minutes. We've always heard, yay, Carl Green, how are you doing? We've always heard a request for an hour and a half, so we're going to go ahead and give it a try this Saturday, I guess for you guys, afternoon. So, we've got some interesting things that have happened in the world recently. Israel is always making it's always making a little bit of news somewhere. This little sliver of a piece of land always has something new for us to look at and talk about. What happened recently? On November 18th, there was an article published about some new technology coming out of Israel, which is not really surprising. That happens a lot. But what's interesting about this is that they're showcasing here a new type of lie detection technology. Lie detection is not admissible in court, as we know these days, because it's not that accurate, at least in the U.S. And there's ways to get around it, but how do you take that up to the next degree? Well, just like you do everything else, you use artificial intelligence. You use heightened technology, where you're using cameras with sophisticated detections, sophisticated sensors that detect your facial
Yeah, old school lie detection was measuring like a small number of things.
like
So like the
pulse,
more,
heart rate, or something. What else was
yeah,
there?
pulse, heart rate, probably brain waves,
Brain
a
waves.
pretty small number of things, and probably more intuitive people could see little twitches in your face or
They
whatever.
had
But
yeah, they had books even like how to pass a lie detection test, which I don't really know how that works, but here, yeah.
What
So
an interesting human thing, though, like human challenge, right? Let's see if
this
we're
is
lying to
interesting.
each other. Just, I mean, like
That is
whether it's a polygraph or this new technology. Animals don't check whether they lie to each other. That's an interesting.
I've never thought of that. You're right. That's kind of a weird thing, like by itself, like on the side.
Yeah.
Jinx on the drinking. Right. So I guess actually on that note, that it's important for people to, I guess for somebody, right? It's important for somebody to make the technology better. I mean, somebody's gaining from it somehow, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't have thought that it's something significant to invest in. So what do they do here? So they take this camera's watching. You have software that's going through and looking at these like micro movements on a person's face. And according to
Mhm.
some algorithm they've got going on there, they can say that if these muscles moved at this time and in this direction or whatever, I don't remember exactly how it said it here, but basically it's not important. Basically, it's using the muscle movements on your face during while being asked questions, and you react being with while telling the truth or lying. And if you're lying versus telling the truth, you can see differences in your face, micro differences. I don't know. Right now, it's only
Right.
73% effective, but I mean, I think this is probably where the technology is
Why
going.
is it? What is the? So I guess in some places it'd be meaningful, but if I had a crappy day at work and I came home and I wanted to walk in with a good vibe, I would want to be lying when I walked in, right? I would want to be walking in with a smile, even though I feel pretty crappy inside.
Hmm.
So, maybe something to unpack a little bit is the value of truth. On the other hand, how much truth do we actually need? And I guess on the other hand, it's really interesting in the business world, in the outside world, because everyone is constantly lying about everything. I mean, that's why we put on makeup. That's why we put on clothes. That's why we choose this shirt over that shirt. That's why we, lead with a certain kind of question. I know there was a like a Japanese. I heard about it when I started working at this. It's at least 20 years ago that I heard about it. Negotiation technique where you would take your client to eat,
Uh-huh.
because I mean, about drinking, you would have to take them to drink, but when you're eating, like a lot of the blood goes to the stomach, and then
Mhm.
so you eat lighter, you trying to fill them up on steaks and breads and everything
Oh,
else.
there's actually a Dan Ariely, like the famous professor of behavioral economics. There's something he writes in one of his books about how if you want to make someone fall in love with you, what kind of meal you should be making for them. Yeah, I think it's actually there's actually a science to it, that has to do with like higher, heart rate and, blood pressure, things like that. I think spicy food is one of them. Anyway, the all of which make you kind of more suggestible, susceptible in some sense. Um, anyway, what I think is interesting about this lie detection technology is if if that becomes, I mean, if you think about the current technology, like the old technology, right? So you have people mostly used in like whatever courts, police, crime, things like that. Polygraph, you have to hook up the person into all these electrodes and all that stuff. Now, I think what's interesting is that it's facial recognition, right? That's what it's about. You don't need to put any electrodes on a person's face. You have the camera potentially of a phone recording someone's face and then like reading the micro movements of the facial muscles, thereby being able to say whether the person is lying or not. So because it's such a more immediate technology that you can put in your phone, I'm thinking about like future potential applications of that, and that suddenly it's a very Black Mirror-ish kind of reality if you think about it. I mean, think about politics, right? Think about politicians on stage on the campaign trail or something, making all those speeches, and all of a sudden you can like record their face, put a close up, on their thing, and everyone with a phone can say, "Hey, my app says he's ninety
or
percent
just or
lying."
just put the filter over, like if you're broadcasting it on a YouTube channel, like put the filter over and as they're speaking, you can literally, live, everyone can just
Yeah.
see. Just
Yeah, what does that do to like human interaction if it becomes so readily available in your phone? Like, like you go back home, you have a conversation with your wife or something. It's like, hey, how was your day? Did you think about me? Well, I don't know. It depends. Do you have your app turned on in
well,
your
hold on, that's interesting because we don't have full control over all of our thoughts and desires. It's one
Right.
thing if like a person is master over his thoughts and desires, and then you can like tell if he's lying or not. But suppose I have some like horrible thought that comes over me while I'm driving to like just smash into the car, like knock this person off their bike or something like that. I don't want to really do that. I don't know where that thought came from. The thought only came for a quarter of a second, right? Everyone has these weird thoughts. Or am I the only one who has them? No, I think everyone probably has thoughts that
It's okay to
come
say
into their
that. I think.
brain
Yeah, I think we all do.
all throughout the day, right? So, am I responsible for that? And if someone catches me in one of
Mm.
those, did you want to knock that person off the bike? Did you really want to run into that van? It's like, no, I didn't really want to. You're lying. It's like, and then
Mm.
held up on each thing. So, you know,
Yeah.
it's first of all, it's super interesting to imagine a world where everyone could tell if everyone's lying. But the other thing is, I'm wondering from the conversation, like, what's the value of truth actually?
Mm. What's the value of truth is one very interesting
What
question. I
is truth?
agree. And maybe do we need lies in it? Like, can you, I mean, do you, do we want and should humans, are we able to live in a society where we can't lie?
Well, even
Isn't that like a feature of human nature that is embedded in our being, that that like you're, I mean, lying, there's all kinds of lies, right? There's also like do you have it works in Hebrew, does it work in English when you say white lie? White lie,
I think so.
like when you,
That's a thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, right? It's like when you, I don't know, like you have to lie to your
Like you tell your
kid
mom or
about
the food dinner's
the,
great, even if you don't think so, or whatever.
okay, good one, yes. So I
My
mean, so
mom's dinner's
that's,
always great though.
so that's 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 inseparable from our being as social creatures. How we, you don't always go to like the very honest 100% pure truth in your interactions with other people. You probably never do, actually. So yeah, I would say, what's the value of truth, and also what's the value of falsehood? We need falsehood, we need lies. We see it also if you think about children education, children development, bringing up children, as they grow up, and how you're, as a parent, you always have to hide things. At least you have to hide some things, some truths. You have to hide them from your developing child if you want them to grow more positively. You can't just smack them in the face with the hard, cold truth of the world and reality, or even the relationships you're having with your spouse, with their mother. Like you can't. You have to give them a very gradual, like systematic unfolding, like a system of concealments you
So then
have to
why? So
apply in your education. Yeah.
that's awesome, and that segues really nicely into the wisdom of Kabbalah because uh, w- if we're the kids in that sense, and nature, the creator, is the adult in that sense, and we see
Mhm.
a world that is full of lies, right? Like everything is like, and again, we're not really, how responsible am I for every single one of those thoughts and desires that's appearing in me all day long? Like even when I, am in an immersive environment, sometimes we do like these 3 day or 4 day retreat kind of events. And you're totally immersed in it. And so your thoughts start to be about it all the time. But 2 days later you come out, 3 days later you come out, and a thought appears out of nowhere. I don't know
Hmm.
where it came from all of a sudden, right? All of a sudden I have a desire to do something I didn't have any importance for before. I would have said was stupid before. Where are these things coming from? So for us, Chris is posing this question about this new technology to tell if people are lying or not, and I'm wondering actually, um, what are we actually responsible for? Imagine you could say that you could tell at all times if someone is lying and if someone's not lying. But
Yeah.
if I needed to feed my family and I told you a semi lie, but I was able to like close the deal and be able to get enough food to eat, like maybe it's a lie, but is it bad? Like we're all making all of these calculations all the time, right?
I want to actually relate to something you said in the when you just started this bit, you said, so this might take us deep here. What did you say, Seth, exactly? That nature is lying to us?
Well, you said that with your kids, you can't like tell them right away that the world's, there's bad people out in the world. You tell them slowly, you
Hmm.
open the world to them. So, in the same way,
Yes.
you lie to them constantly. You constantly lie to kids.
If you
Oh,
consider
the
hiding
store
the
is
truth,
closing. We have to go to
yeah,
bed now.
exactly. At the very least, you're hiding the truth. But if you consider, and you do it knowingly and consciously, and we could account
If
that
you're a good
as
parent, you're
lying.
constantly
Yeah,
lying to your parent, your
right,
little kids.
right.
Right.
So you're saying nature, that's very interesting kabbalistically
Yeah.
to call it that way. The nature is essentially lying to us because we are not seeing the true manner, the true plan of our development. Just like, you um, uh, uh, Dr. Lightman, Kabbalist Michael Lightman had our teacher has a great example that I like. Help me out with this one. How did it go? Where he says that his mother, his mom and dad told him, he said he wants a bicycle or something like that, right? But they wanted him to go to school. So how does it go? So he said, okay, I want the bicycle. Okay, I'll go and get good grades. But on the way, what happens is that as you're making efforts to become a better student, that actually starts changing you, and you might actually want to become a better student. So we're changing. That's just an example. I'm sure it happens with every kid, but it's a good example to show how the system of reward and punishment, or even just rewards, the rewarding mechanism that we have for ourselves, is also a system of lies that we tell ourselves. You know what I mean? Like you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to study for this exam or whatever, and then I'll be able to go and do something else. But then maybe studying for the exam changes you, and you start actually to want to do that to a certain extent. Anyway, there's
That's
I
perfect
think
on
that, yeah.
Friday afternoon at work, for example, right? Like you have so much work, you're so stressed, you have to get these things done, and then like all of a sudden something hits, and you just start thinking about what you're gonna do when you get home, or you start thinking about what's gonna happen, like tonight. You almost lie to yourself that all of those things just don't exist anymore. Like the clock hit a certain hour, and like I just tell myself a different story. Like those problems are not mine anymore. I'll deal with them later. I think we're always putting small lies in front of us to get us kind of from point A to point B all
Yeah,
day.
that's what I meant. I'm not sure I think you just explained it better. Yes, we ourselves, I think, are introducing lies into our own thinking process, consciously more or less, but we do it all the time in order to advance from point A to point B. Because without this concealment or even deceit to an extent, it's very difficult to advance anywhere, to move forward to anywhere. You know. Anyway, so
This
nature.
is
So that's one thing. So lies, I would say, are inseparable from our being, from our that's one. And two is what nature's role is, how nature relates to us in terms
there
of.
was a there was someone asked a question in the morning lesson. Our teacher was talking about this concept of like acting, of like lying uh, towards your friends. Like you want to be like the nature of nature, to be bestowing, to be loving. So behave with love towards your friends. And the student was saying, yeah, but I feel like I'm totally lying if I do that. He acts like this, he does this. I'd be totally lying if I act like him to love. And Rav responded, "You lie about everything else in your life." And it's not like this person's like a known liar; he's just a normal person. But he said, "You lie about everything else in your life. So now
Mhm.
lie about loving."
Oh, that's such a good that's such a good thing to chew on. I mean, if you think about the amount of social media brainwashing that we go through, mainstream media, social media, society in general, just the general brainwash that we're under all the time. that basically just wants us to buy and consume and, be part of the workforce. And then you have politicians lying to you in order for you to vote for them. There's always, you're surrounded by lies anyway, all the time. So why not take the same dynamic of lying to ourselves that's already happening and just use it purposefully, use it in a good way, in an educational way, in a socially productive way, in a pro-social manner. Think about, actually, it's like applying the same kind of natural instinctive lying that we do towards our children, applying that on a social scale. You know, uh, that can really change things.
Well,
Um,
here's a good Kabbalistic question. Niklas Rammersdorfer asks, is concealment really equal
hey,
to
Nicholas.
lying?
Ah, Kabu.
Mm. Yeah, I know. I
Sounds
remember
familiar.
Nicholas from one of the Kabu
Yeah.
sessions. Great to see you here. Is concealment really equal to lies? That's a good. I guess it's a matter of definition, isn't it? I mean, okay, let's differentiate. Let's say that there is hiding the truth, which we always do, which is why, to counter that, humans always do that. And then there is um, lying. How would you differentiate that? What's the difference between lying and concealing the
Well,
truth?
I
Like
think
the
maybe you could just
essential
say,
difference.
you could say kind of intention in that sense. Like, are you really trying to hurt somebody? Or are you doing it for, I mean, I think lying and concealment
So
are kind
you're
of the same thing. It's just, are you trying to hurt them through this, or are you not trying to hurt them through this?
so you're introducing then intention into the
I didn't
equation
really
here.
want to introduce intention. It's another variable, but I think that, either way, if you're not telling the truth, yeah, well,
Okay,
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 go
okay,
ahead.
okay. Wait. That's interesting. Nicholas, tell us if this is where you were trying to direct the conversation here. If you're lying to your kid and you're not just hiding the truth, but you're lying, it's like it's like help me think of an example, like a blatant lie. You're just telling him something completely opposite than the truth, but you're doing it in order to protect, to nurture, to support, to help him stay away from a horrible danger. Can you imagine
Okay,
such a scenario?
Nicholas gives one like this. When someone hasn't, like a kind of like a businessy thing or like a slimy thing, where someone has one intention but says something different. He's like, when you go to buy a car kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, well, if you don't get it now, it's not gonna, I have three people who already made an offer on this, or, I mean, that's a kind of generic, doesn't hurt so much, but
I'm trying to say that I like that you introduced intention into the discussion here. I think that's correct. I think that's where the real difference is. That's what it's all about. I mean, if I know that my parents are lying to me, um, uh, they might be lying to me. Let's say that I'm a developing kid, right? And let's say that I know that my parents might be lying to me at sometimes. I don't know when exactly, but sometimes they might be lying to me in order to save me, help me, protect me, right? Ultimately, I'd rather them do that than telling me the truth if it may hurt me.
interesting.
Now, so the difference really, it's not about how much you lie. Are you just concealing the truth, or are you actually saying something that is opposite to the truth? It's about why are you concealing, saying half the truth, saying something opposite to the truth, or maybe saying the truth.
You
It's
know, when
really, at the end of the day, it's about
Well, when we
that's what
got
it's
the
about.
topic and I was thinking about it, I was thinking mostly about like, wow, okay, imagine a reality where if everyone's lying all the time, so everyone would have to just tell the truth. But now that we're having the conversation and I'm here with you guys and we're thinking about this, it really doesn't, in a sense, yeah, it doesn't, it's not about whether it's a lie or the truth, because depending on who you are and my relationship to you, like if I'm having a birthday party for you tomorrow and it's a surprise, like I need to lie, or, and there's thousands
There you go.
there's
Yeah.
thousands of iterations on that, and twists and turns on that, because yeah, if you're a teenager, like maybe I don't want you to know that if you just had one sip of a beer, it probably wouldn't affect your driving, for example. I don't want you drinking any alcohol. Like there's so many nuances to it. I'm
Right.
sitting talking to my kid and he's like, Dad, you're lying. I'm like, no, I don't want you even drinking one sip of alcohol before you're driving. He's like, Dad, you're lying. It's not going to really affect me. So it almost, I feel like we're getting to this interesting point where we're almost realizing that it's not, doesn't matter if you're lying.
Like
Wait,
lying
hold on.
is
I have to
And
say
necessary
that.
in society. Like it's
what?
necessary.
What?
Like it's necessary. Lying is necessary. Is kind of what it
we,
sounds
we
like you're
just
saying.
established, I think, yes, that it's we just established that it's necessary in society, it's necessary in social interaction, it's necessary in education, it's necessary in order to protect. It comes down to, on the other hand, of course, we're
But
not
we
like
hate
here
all of the scummy people out there who are constantly lying to us all day in the news and all the politicians, right? We know everything they're telling us is a lie, and that feels horrible.
because we know they're using it to manipulate us for their agenda, their interests, whether it's money, power, those type of things. But let's go Kabbalistic here a little more here, right? If you think about spiritual development, what nature does to us, what the governing program of the spiritual development of mankind is doing to humans, we are constantly being lied to. Why am I saying that? Because our nature tells us, I'm going to have to stop here soon before it becomes one of those things that's too much for this show to remain fun. But our ego wants egoistic pleasure. Our nature wants pleasure that comes directly into ourself. Self benefit. That's what we're programmed to crave. And nature is developing us gradually by selling us, lying to us that there is such a benefit. That's basically what's happening. Even in your spiritual development, mostly in your spiritual development, I would say, you're aiming towards a higher level of fulfillment. We call that spiritual fulfillment, fulfillment that comes from identifying with the quality of love and bestowal that drives all of nature. But we imagine that, and it's built into the system, we imagine that as egoistic pleasure. We can't do it any other way. And thanks to that lie that our nature is telling us, our egoistic nature is telling us, which is part of the general plan, thanks to that lie, we're able to advance a little bit more and a little bit more to gradually a more real and accurate description of what spiritual development, spiritual fulfillment really is. So,
It's like there's also that
yeah.
example that Rob Lightman gives us a lot of the times too, where he's like, if they would tell you in first grade that you're gonna have to be in school, till for another like 10 years, you don't say, oh, well, you're gonna have to do this for a long time. Even if you do, you don't even really feel it. It's like if you know how much longer you need to work towards it, then it's almost like you kind of loses the drive. You'd rather just take it one kind of piece at a time, and then you're like,
Mhm.
there was this example. Or maybe that wasn't the right example. Wait,
No,
what was
that's a
the thing
great
that you?
example. Could you imagine saying to a kid, you're going to have to sit in that chair for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for the next 12 years? You'd be like,
Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, if you like detail it like
horrible.
that, it like
It's
there's
like,
no
what?
emotional
But
grasp.
if
Yeah,
kids were able to make sense of that amount of time, even, like
right. That's the
at
thing.
first,
Yeah,
yeah, you don't even like 12 years. What is that? You don't even have that kind of concept.
that
Yeah.
actually would like hurt their development in a way if they did know the quote unquote truth of the situation. That's interesting.
If we
Yes.
extrapolate from that, then we have the nature has to, it's not it's almost like a principle in life that we just there's always a lie in front of us to get us to move forward, because the next degree we can never really understand it correctly anyway from where we are now. The kid can't understand what it means to go through school, so he has to have some kind of lie in front of us. And in the same way, we don't know what the good future looks like. We don't know what, well, we know, what we do know. We do, Chris, you opened up with, or was this in when we were preparing? We do know what the bad future would look like. Um, that would be pretty horrible. And it's almost like we don't need to lie to end up in the bad future. We just need to keep chugging on in truth. You know, what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours, and let's carry on until everyone's at war with each other.
Well, that's kind of the problem, is that we don't even really
Maybe
care.
we need a really good lie. That's what we need. Maybe we need a good lie. We need a
I
really good lie that we can all get behind.
They're always working
we
on that.
exactly here's what we should be our new branding. It's actually our friend Andrew and I were our good friend Andrew. We once had some creative session about something we were working on, some piece of video content. Anyway, so it was about the influence of society, and how we should, if you think about it from a Kabbalistic perspective, if we changed the influence of society over ourselves, we would be able to supercharge our spiritual development on a global scale. So we came up with this slogan that was like, lie to your loved ones today. You know, if you really love your loved
amazing.
ones, you're gonna lie to them.
Yeah, but
Lie
watch
to
this.
them.
Watch this. Suppose I don't know. Suppose I don't know Isam Otasort. Hi, Isam. Okay, and also Kevin. Right when I go, Isam, you are so beautiful. You are such a beautiful person. You're so warm. You're so caring. And Kevin, so handsome and strong. And just, whenever I see your name, I feel so confident. You guys you're both just great people. In general, I really look up to you. So even though I don't, I would say that that Isam and Kevin, you could let us know if I'm right. I think that affects you a little bit when you hear that. When somebody, even if they're lying to you, if someone just starts telling you great things about yourself and just telling you how wonderful, and Isam and Kevin, you're smart. I would consider you geniuses, and you're very patient and successful in a lot of areas in life. It affects you.
It does.
It really
My dad always
affects you.
told me, he always said, the doctor, Chris, whenever you were born, he said you were going to be a genius. I never believed him. I never believed him. I was like, it's like, Chris, you're going to be a great, 5'9" basketball player or whatever. You don't believe it, but still,
Wait, but
it works on you.
That's interesting, Chris, because if a lie is good, then it has to be measured as well. It has to be the right kind of lie. That, again, this might seem really strange for people who don't have background in what we're talking about.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff going on.
Why do these Kabbalah veterans are talking about lying in such a graceful manner?
Right.
Hold on. Also, okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go for it.
Well, Seraphim just said in Islam there's a concept of lying for the sake of truth called taqiyya. It's actually a virtue.
Okay, well, yeah, I think you'll find it in probably many ancient traditions, but
it's interesting. There's so much confusion here. Some are saying, lying is like stealing. Another one's saying lying is actually worthwhile. Others saying lies without an intention harm. Lies of omission can be considered. Like, there's a lot of different opinions about.
Very multifaceted.
Yeah.
And it's a complicated topic because lies are inseparable from who we are and what we are. It's thinking about a human being who is not lying. You're not thinking about a human being. You're thinking about some sort of a robot or whatever, an angel, however you think of angels. It has to do with who we are and what we are. But to think about this from a spiritual development perspective, Rabash writes in one of his articles that in order to reach truth, we have to go through the greatest falsehood. And that's the only way to identify what truth is.
So this is
yeah.
No, I didn't even get to
Go
ask
ahead.
my question about this piece yet because I was. It took me a long time because it's everything seems so obvious. The one question that doesn't seem as obvious, I say as because it's still kind of obvious, but really the question here about this piece is this a blow to humanity? Because you can see a lot of people getting upset about it at the airports, police interrogations. You know, what if there's some kind of,
Right.
some kind of like error with the system? You have people going in jail because of, so many different things, so many negative things that could be about it. So is it a blow to humanity? Like, oh God, now we're all going to be under this, regime where they
Hmm.
use this thing way too much, and it ruins people's lives in a way, or is it something that's actually going to help us, not help us like become better people, even though that's kind of what we wrote in the description or the title of the show. Like, will it help us become more honest? Because after our discussion now, I don't think that it will, because it's not really about becoming more honest, but will it help us recognize something about ourselves? Even just now, after we had this little discussion, it went on for a lot longer than I expected. But we also saw how kind of important lying is. So all of a sudden, you have this new technology that potentially could be used in a way that affects humanity on like a really serious, dramatic level. Like, is this going to be something that harms humanity at the end? Let's just answer this kind of at the as to kind of close the topic. Is it something that's going to be harmful to humanity or helpful to humanity? Bekitzel, what do you think?
I think it's a good question. With all technology, it's a double-edged sword. Again, we started by thinking about it. I think the most interesting situation to think about this question is, imagine this technology becoming so like ubiquitous. It's all over the place. People are using it in social interactions, it's in dating, it's in whatever. It's, you're always checking if you're muted, Seth. You want to jump in?
People would not leave the house because
Yeah.
we do not have enough control over our thoughts and desires, and yeah, I think we would just become terrified and we wouldn't leave the house.
So
The only people
um
who have uh and also it would make us more vegetative because the
what
only
do you
way
say
to,
that?
because if I have if I have take a guy who's very gets tons of testosterone, right? And he's like a
Okay.
warrior, like that's he may want to just like tear people apart in the street. Like he may have, or any person could have thoughts of passion. If you comment
Hmm.
all your desires down,
Hmm.
right? Like all I want is to eat potato chips and sleep and just play Crazy Birds or like Tetris or
Oh,
whatever.
you're
So I
saying
don't
that a
then I can't
repression, that
not
the
repression.
repression will
You
happen.
would well, you're calling it repression. I'm not even saying repressing it. I'm even like just turning down all of my anything in me that would want anything because I don't want to be seen by society as someone who's constant. Like if I want something, if I want to start a business, I have
Mhm.
to compete against the competitor in the business, right? I have to do marketing. I have to do all of these things in order to make my business good, which if someone had a lie detector, they could say, well, you're lying about this, you're lying about that. um, I think that if there was such a thing, it would bring it would bring everyone like to the couch. I think people would be
Mm.
very nervous to go outside.
Maybe one good thing about though, is that it might make us more aware, more conscious of what our true nature is. And that would be kabbalistically a plus. Like closer to the recognition of our true nature, uh, just how we're all built from the same matter. People are similar creatures. We have the same structure, and deeply embedded in that structure is the human ego. And the human ego is the very need for all the possible lies ever that you need to tell anyone or to hear from anyone. That's the very reason we need lies or experience lies is because of that ego, because it's in with respect to all of nature, it's a lie. We live in a bubble, in our nature is a lie. Our human nature is essentially a lie, meaning the true nature that surrounds us and drives everything that's happening to us is uh, is complete unconditional bestowal. That's really what nature is. That's what reality is. We live in this imaginary world, Kabbalists call it, imaginary experience, imaginary reality, a world of falsehood, they call it. The very experience of a human being is of a lie. We're living a lie. So I think if that technology helps us somewhat recognize that we are like that we're always lying, and that it's always there, and that it's part of our being, I think that's to an extent a plus. Okay,
We did it.
I think we covered it. Okay.
I mean, we really chewed that one out, but that was interesting.
Yeah.
That was really interesting. All right, check this out. Moving on. Let's see if I can do this like smooth and sexy. Number 3, number 4. Okay, not number 4. We still need to go to OBS.
The text is blurry, but she looks really fit.
Oh, now we can see the
Now
text.
we need to
There we go.
pin. I got to get this whole thing down. Okay, let me go over here now.
Isn't it
I'm just
cute
gonna.
how
I want to
they
read
skipped-
this. I want to. What?
yeah.
What'd you say?
Isn't it cute how they skipped? She was the next Greek, I think. She, whatever it's called, XI was the next Greek letter.
President Xi.
Yeah,
I
They were going to name the
I-
next
I-
COVID variant XI, but they skipped it
Because of him.
PR.
Well, that's respectful. All right, listen. I want to read some of this just because talking about it, you don't get like the full emotional sensation. So here we go. China
Go for it.
bars celebrities from showing off wealth and extravagant pleasure on social media. Wow. What? Isn't that what social media is? Okay. Saying pop stars must comply with core socialist values. Great. Okay. That's respectful. All right. Celebrities in China can no longer show off wealth. All right. Blah, blah, blah. Both celebrity and fan club accounts must follow, quote unquote, public order and good customs, adhere to correct public opinion orientation and value orientation, promote socialist core values, and maintain a healthy style and taste. All right, we're going to skip a little bit. Tuesday's notice also prohibits celebrities from spreading rumors, publishing false or private information, provoking fan clubs to, quote unquote, verbally attack each other, and encouraging fans to partake in, quote unquote, illegal fundraising or irrational investments. Okay, skipping a little bit more. Here we go. The group says the list. Look above this. It says the China Association of Performing Arts barred 88 people from live streaming. So there's like basically keeping people from going live. The group said that it was designed to strengthen industry self-discipline and prevent illegal and unethical artists from re-entering the industry. Officials did not provide why this person was removed, but quote-unquote various scandals over the years, such as a $7.45 million investor lawsuit. Almost done. Yeah. Access to global acts such as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube is blocked in China, if that wasn't already obvious. So we're talking about only their internal apps that they have there. There was an issue with this tennis player. I don't know if you guys were familiar with that. There was like some sexual accusations there. So here's the question. Let's see if I can do a sweet transition here. Let's go to 3. Okay, unpin video. 2. Okay, we're getting better at this. So here's the thing. Are we? That sounds pretty good. I mean, honestly, if I'm outside of China, then I'm looking at that like kind of with like a little bit of respect, because what do we got going on here? If anyone talks about when someone says social media, there's someone immediately kind of correlates that with like Instagram models, gossip, negative things, basically, and here China's basically saying, we're doing something to combat that. And even though it said in the title, it said showing off wealth and extravagant pleasure, wasn't really so much in the article, but there's other articles that do speak about that. We just don't really have so much time to get to them, but just know that they exist. So the question that I kind of want us to sit, to look at this, is this some kind of socialist communist move to make the country look better? Are they doing this because they're worried that scandals, that never looks good. That never looks good for a country. Are they trying to like save face, or are they actually really ahead of the curve here? Are they doing something that are they trying to kind of protect their citizens slash users? Is that something that maybe they're that's part of their calculation, or maybe it's both? Or can we learn? Or should we take after them? Or is there some kind of thing that we should actually? Is there something that here to kind of duplicate? There's a lot of things to talk about here, but basically, obviously
is
there's
it
a
really
problem.
so bad?
Is it really so bad?
Is
What's
it
happening?
Yeah. Okay.
Because clearly
First
we've
of
got
all,
to like
okay,
a climax of really bad social media is just bad, and so here we see kind of the first move. So go ahead, let's talk about it a little bit.
I think before we even break it down, I think there's more stuff that I've heard from a different source about what they're doing. And again, it's all new from the last 2 weeks or something like that. They're doing more when it comes to children. They're not just stopping celebrities from showing off and
The
things like that.
algorithms, yeah.
The algorithms, I don't know exactly the social networks the Chinese social networks, but I understood that so like if an American, or an Israeli, whatever, like any Western kid with TikTok on his phone can just like scroll mindlessly and reach gradually, I don't know, like these like near porn videos, or just like things that are addictive and not necessarily helpful to them. So in China, I think that some of the algorithms and some social networks are working in such a way that they make sure that kids at a certain age will receive a specific content, something that has to do with science or technology or education, things that will actually help them, that can still be interesting to them, but can be helpful to them. There's also a thing where I think from 10 p.m. or something like that until the next morning, you cannot use certain social media in China. And that's a big thing, because if you think about children or youth, whatever, as soon as your friend posts something or you post something, you want to know if people liked it or not, and that you have all this kind of social considerations. So by turning it off for the night, no one can post and no one can see what was posted and no one can add a like or whatever it is. So you're just allowing them to just unplug for a second. You're allowing them to not be always in this FOMO, fear of missing out kind of situation, where you're always in this anxiety of what did they write about me? What did they like my post? What is happening? Just think about it. They're just letting them rest, So we have to look at that, if we're trying to look at it objectively, so to speak, yes, it's coming from a socialist agenda, but there is something here that's very hard to just dismiss as, oh, it's a dictatorship, it's censorship from a socialist country. The research shows that Chinese kids now beat American kids at every academic parameter. So you got to wonder. You got to wonder.
They were way ahead before this new. I also thought about that.
But it took time. It was a trend. It didn't happen it didn't happen overnight. So it is interesting that you have, yes, it's a socialist country, in socialist in the sense that there is freedom of the individual is at a very different place in China. We understand that. You also have, friends living in China. We had some conversations with them in the past. We understand that liberty, civil liberties, things like that. Of course, we're not, praising everything China is doing, but you have to take into account that there you have a government, a country that is suddenly thinking about how can I understand. They're basically saying, I understand these algorithms, these social media networks. I understand what they're doing to society. I understand what they're doing to our minds. I understand the addictive nature of using them. And maybe I want to handle that a little bit. I
The
want to
one
I
who
want to use that.
the one
Yeah.
who controls the message is really in charge, because if we didn't get told about a certain flood or a certain earthquake that happened somewhere, we just wouldn't know. If we weren't told every single day that a certain politician is a certain way, we just wouldn't know. And I'm sure everyone has seen the videos circulating now, where like the in the U.S. anyway, you have a small news channel in dozens of little states, dozens of little towns all around the country. They're all
Mm.
saying the exact same message,
Mhm.
about a certain political topic, because they're being fed. So we understand that if it was possible to be feeding everyone good messages all day about how great it is to and how much better we'll feel if we work together, and here, try this to feel healthy today, and you do this and you're going to feel great, and all day long we're getting content about how to be good to each other, how to get along, how to respect each other's opinions, everything would be totally different. Everything outside would be totally different. The problem with the China situation, it's good actually. I mean, compared to, because, nature develops everything through these quantitative and qualitative movements, and you got a couple billions of people over there to manage, and, nature's got to do it in a progressive way. In that
Yeah,
sense, it's
but by
good.
the way, that's another big point. That's another big point. You just mentioned it. Let's just put a magnifying glass on it for a second. They have 1.5 billion people, I believe, right, in China, something like
It's a
that.
lot of people.
That's a lot of people. Different rules apply. You can't compare that. Not even to a country with, let's say, 300 million people, like in the U.S. It's a different reality. You don't even anyway.
So
Yeah, go
so
ahead.
the issue, so it's in that sense it's good, but once again we run up to the need for what we're talking about in the wisdom of Kabbalah, because who is going to run these programs? Who is going to decide what they're going to get? It always comes back to enforcement by the gun,
Mm,
enforcement by camps, putting people in camps, enforcement by, because everyone, like we went back to in the lying section, if we get down to human nature, which we'll see more and more,
hmm
everyone really is out for themselves unless we understand through the this wisdom how to organize ourselves, because all of our greatest reason, our mind, and all of our greatest feelings will never be able to get outside of the realm of this world unless we know how to connect ourselves together in a certain way. And when we connect ourselves together in a certain good kind of way, then we actually have almost as if like a new eye, new ear. We can perceive how to make things good. So you need rules like this in a sense, but you put a lock on your door not because you want to. You want everyone to love each other, and you put a lock on your door. So you
Right.
you teach your kids to
So,
love.
so you're saying regulations and censorship, they're not a strategy for human development.
It's kind of like you
They,
need to do these things in the meantime anyway,
yeah.
right? My kids say to me like this, my boys, they go, Dad, school is so stupid. Now, I said the same thing to my parents, but I see some of the stuff because they were home last year, and I saw the Zoom classes. Like, it's a lot of wasted time, and there's so many
Mm,
things that could be done much more efficiently. Like, they go to gym class, and the kids are like athletes, and they're running all the time, and the teacher's like, just walk from here to here, and like, just it's not efficient. They're not really, but you say to the kids, just listen to your teacher. Because in the meantime, what are we going to do all day?
yeah, yeah. No, no.
So
Oh man, I totally feel this thing when you talk about school, and like, yeah, it's a painful point because my kids are in school, and I not just wasted time, man, not just wasted time. There's so much things that I'd rather, it's just lack of better choice, lack of
So
other
in that
options.
sense, like what I see in China is kind of like sending your kids to school. Like they, in the meantime, until we all get everything right, there's it's good actually to chill out
So
on some of this.
here's the thing: if you ask me, I have a 9-year old and a 6-year old. I also have an almost 2-year old, right? But if you ask me, especially about the 9-year old and the 6-year old, if you tell me, do you want to click a button, and if you click that button will make sure that wherever they travel on social media, they won't see hurtful stuff. They won't be encouraged by the algorithms to scroll mindlessly into these hyperactive videos that give them no real value, but other more potentially interesting, relevant, scientific, educational material will be suggested to them, and they will be protected from violent contents and so on. If you tell me, here's the button, uh, I click it. I'm going to click it. And I don't care if you tell me China is clicking the very same button and it's a socialist regime with some censorship, with, I don't care. I would like, to have more control in the kind of stuff that is feeding my kids' brains.
Yeah.
But,
The
but,
pro
okay, go ahead. Yeah.
without adding this wisdom of connection,
Hmm.
it immediately every time through history turns into fascism, dictatorship.
So there's a very thin line there between nurturing and educating and oppression. And
Because the
uh,
countries that don't let their people have freedom, those countries don't advance um, emotionally into spiritually. In order for a person to advance spiritually, now there you could say, well, make a person suffer a lot. They'll also um, there's rare occasions where that does happen, where a person kind of suffers so much that they detach from their ego and have some kind of spiritual awakening. But in general, I'm not talking about unique cases. The more that a people is their freedoms are taken away, the less they will be able to advance spiritually. And on the other hand, the more a person is able to develop and have freedoms, the more they will
mhm,
be able to approach spirituality. And it's kind of because, or it is because you reach a dead end through your freedoms. You take those freedoms to the limit, and that is when you are ready to for something. That's when you finish first grade and you're ready. You get past all of the lies. I'm going to, I have freedom. I think I can be happy by cars. I have freedom. I think I can be happy through sex. I have freedom. I think I can be happy through money. And then I go through all of these things until I realize I can't, and then I have a true need. I have a need for something more, and that's when spirituality starts to open to me. But you have to be careful. Also, on the other hand, we don't want our kid. We don't want to open all of those things up to a person. Needs to go through those processes in a very measured and deliberate way, because like we said before, you don't want your kid just being fat. You don't want your 10-year-old to know, well, sex isn't going to fulfill you for your life, or just everything. You can't get everything you want with money and that'll make you happy. Oh, you can't, buy any house you want. That'll make you happy. You can't do that to a person. You'd really have a lot of psychological problems if you do that to a kid at a young age.
Oh, well, wait a second.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Seth.
No, no,
I'm
you
about to move
go.
on. So if you have some like a little thing inside, you wanna.
I think we I think, okay, if you want to move on to something else, I think it's maybe worthwhile for us to kind of add this very clear thing with regards to spiritual development. Essentially, what Seth was saying, we have a saying for that from Kabbalists: there's no coercion in spirituality. There cannot be coercion in the spiritual development of the human being. This isn't something that Kabbalists say to sound liberal. It's something that is just reflects laws of nature.
Okay, but so the
Spiritual development has to do with, yeah, go ahead.
spirituality though is for a small, at some point it will be for all of mankind, but what's happening in China is the management of billions of people, and the spiritual path, as we know, the people who are adherents or pilgrims on the path of spirituality, it's a very, very small, they're called individuals in the books of Kabbalah. It's like it's called the
Hmm.
collective and the individual, and there's almost rules for both. We're both in both. The individual also belongs to the collective. He would, those laws of censorship or filtering would apply to him as well. But the inner journey of the spiritual is, you're talking about a tiny fraction.
Okay, I know Chris wants us to move forward, but another
Keep going.
angle here is this: the when you the question is this: if you don't put any filtering and any censorship, which is pretty much what's happening in the West right now, right? That type of, what you get is ultimately you still get very, very biased content and media on, and very biased algorithms. They're just biased in a different way because the goal is to make money. The method is to get clicks. The need then for the algorithm to fulfill is to get you addicted, and that happens through more violent content, more things that are, that immediately strike a chord with our limbic system, more violent stuff, and hurtful stuff, negative stuff, and just that from the perspective of the business owners, in these the shareholders of the social media game, right? From their perspective, the best human being is a numb, zombified person who just goes like this all day and just scrolls and scrolls and scrolls and scrolls mindlessly to hit as many ads as possible and maybe buy as many things as possible. So, isn't that exactly, I mean, isn't that also coercion, but from another, we just don't call it censor, we don't call it censorship, we don't call it filtering, but it's totally specific agenda that is being pushed into the veins of social media. So you know what I mean? So it's a matter of perspective. It's like you're brainwashed either way, only for different purposes, and in a different way. Is there really a difference? You know what I mean? So that's another thing here. The bottom line, I think, with regards to spiritual development, and yeah, you're right. There's a big difference between individual spiritual development and collective global spiritual development. But if we talk about the collective global spiritual development of mankind, I think there's gonna be no other way besides there's gonna have to be purposeful use, intentional use of the media that connects us, of the environments that we spend our time, the technology that we use to connect to each other, and the content and media that mediates human relations. We're going to have to find a way to use it intentionally. Call it, I don't care if you call it filtering, if you call it, yes, there's going to have to be an agenda, but it's going to be a spiritual agenda. And the beautiful thing here is it doesn't matter how good you're going to get at doing spiritual PR and spiritually inclined algorithms that present content to you. You're not going to be able to take away man's choice when it comes to spiritual development. It's just rooted in nature. There's no way to do it. It's impossible for a person to make a step, an inner change of intention, without being part of the process and volitionally going there. So that's so I think it's interesting. Okay, last sentence. I think it's very interesting what's happening today. I think that we should look at it from a very zoomed out perspective, and it's an interesting thing to see that that we're starting to treat social media in a more as something that influences us a lot, and we have to start to put our like put a direction to it. Not saying that we should all follow what China is doing, but there's definitely room to think about it, to rethink completely how we use social
You'd
media.
have a lot of people who are mad if you tried to do that over in the States. They'd be real mad. They would not stand for that. Well, Seth mentioned something, how you don't develop as much if you're. Sorry, I'm sick. If I look like weird and talk weird, I'm still getting over something. My brain is also on like 0.5%. If you look at countries who are less developed, meaning they have like less freedoms, then they are less likely to want to ask questions relating to the point of life, spirituality, however you want to label it. And I don't really want to get into this topic so much because I think it's more or less obvious, but I thought it was interesting. There's this psychotherapist. His name was what was his name here? I forgot his name. What is it? Brian Cox? Logan Roy, I think is his name here. Anyways, he's what happened was this. He had this client. He's a psychotherapist. He had this client who was a billionaire, and the billionaire there just kind of passed his name around, and it became kind of this therapist.
Oh no,
for all of
Brian
the
Cox and
billionaires.
Logan Roy are the. Brian Cox is the actor. Logan
They
Roy
made a
is the
show
name of
about
the
him.
character.
So one of them. Yeah, Brian Cox is the real guy, or Logan Roy is the real guy.
Brian Cox is I think the actor.
Brian Cox is the actor.
He plays a billionaire.
I
He plays a
read
media.
I read the article that Chris is talking about. I don't remember any names. I just remember there's a therapist to the super rich, and he's exposing some interesting truths. So
Yeah,
I don't
but
know
it's
the name.
also not
But
really
we're talking about the same item, right?
Yeah, it's not even. I don't really want to get into it so much. I just thought it was interesting how Seth mentioned it. I wasn't going to get into it unless someone kind of mentioned kind of a way to get into it, which was how these billionaires. When we think about billionaires and the struggles of billionaires, you don't really feel those words go hand in hand with another. Struggle, billionaire. What's the struggle of a billionaire? What could possibly could a billionaire struggle from? But it kind of just opens the door a little bit, and it shows you how they're all suffering from, not all, but in some way or another, they're suffering from some kind of depression. That how did he say it here? They get bored. They get bored with life, and are constantly looking for this next high. I mean, you can imagine if you put yourself in their situation, you can kind of imagine how that's happening, and that doesn't even. And forget about even going into.
You would even look for another planet to go to or something.
Yeah, that's touchy. Yeah, exactly.
No, but I think one of the big things that he's talking about there in the article, and I think that's something that's harder for us non-billionaires to understand, is that they can't trust the children. Is another big thing for sure. But for them as individuals, they can't trust anyone. They can't trust people who are very close to them.
They should have that lie detector with everyone around them. Are
there
you
you
only here
go.
for the money?
Circle.
Are you only here for the money?
Yes. Exactly, because everyone who is now in contact with you, everyone wants a piece of you. Everyone wants a piece of what you have.
Even if you really like the person, it's almost impossible, unless you're just a monk and your brain is somewhere else. It's almost impossible because it overwhelms you. It's like taking a lion who ate, and well, if a lion who didn't eat, he's going to eat because he just can't help himself. If he did eat, he probably will chill out. But if you get close enough to his nose, he's probably there's just these things inside of us that
think that if I have a good friend who grew up with me, the soulmate, like a really good friend, and then I went on my life and became a non-billionaire, just a person who survives. And he becomes a super. We're talking. First of all, it's important to understand this therapist. He's the a therapist to the super rich. Like it's not people with a few
1%,
millions,
less than
with a
1%,
few
really.
million, with a few $1 million in the bank. It's people who are super bill. Like it's the Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg type of people. I don't know if it's the necessarily tech entrepreneurs, but that type of money, that type of wealth. So for these, so let's say your friend becomes one of those. You want to tell me that this will have no effect on your relationship? Of course it will. There's no reality in the world where even if it's your best bud, this is going to have some effect. Immediately, it's like, but he could make my life so much easier just by by waving a finger, and he that and releasing some money that he doesn't even care about
Oh,
because
but
he
he
has so
cares.
much.
Oh, but he
And that
cares.
thought, yeah, but the thought will
But
be in your
every single
between
relative
them.
at Thanksgiving,
Yeah,
every single relative
exactly.
at
No, you don't
Thanksgiving
go to
dinner is thinking,
Thanksgiving
if he
for that
just
reason.
gave me 10 million, all of my
Everyone will
problems
think
would be over.
exactly,
The other one's like, if I
exactly.
only had 8 million, my problems. The other one's like, I just need $500,000 to get out of this, pay off my mortgage. Every every single
Should have
Yeah,
asked
relative
for a million.
would have those thoughts,
Yeah.
and he doesn't even care anyway. It wouldn't even affect him. He wouldn't even know what is 10 million to him. Nothing.
No, but
exactly.
unless he's
So,
Everyone he
investing it.
meets would be saying that.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
well, okay,
Uh,
listen. I didn't want to get into this because, yes,
No,
all these
but
things are kind of obvious. But no, go ahead. What are you
no,
saying?
I'm just I think it's not that obvious. I think that the immediate thing we think about, I mean, this is a real problem for these people. This is that's what's not obvious, that it's a
Okay,
real
yeah.
problem. These people are wrapped up in mistrust and deceit, and everyone wants to have a piece of them. Of course, there's a whole host of other problems there. Of course, if you get to a point where your business runs itself, and it makes all the money in the world, and there's really no reason. And let's say you're not a tech entrepreneur who has dreams about living on Mars like Elon Musk, right? I don't know, you're doing something that you're not, not that kind of person. You might be depressed because you have no reason to get out of bed now. There's no ambition, the business runs itself, everything, there's really no. And then boredom becomes a real problem. It's not like a rich man's problem, and it has real
But boredom,
effects. It's
boredom. That's
linked
a
with depression and drug abuse, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's kind of the only point I wanted to make about this was that when you get bored, you're basically boredom is it's such an interesting feeling. I always say this to my kid who's like, I'm bored. I don't know what to do. I'm bored. I don't know what to do. And you really identify with that feeling because bored is like it's almost like what do I want to, it's what do I want to occupy my time with? Why do I want to occupy my time? Because otherwise I feel time as just this long drawn out thing where I'm like basically suffering because if I don't have some like goal or something that just makes it clear to me why
Mhm.
I'm doing that thing, if I don't have any of those things or some kind of struggle even, then my life feels very bland. So it's almost like it's almost like these billionaires are giving us this example, of like there's if we can somehow advertise this feeling a little bit or this truth where being a billionaire does
Mhm.
not make your life better. It doesn't. And it's almost like you don't even need to have the whole world go through being billionaires because it's enough that just these 1% does. And that automatically makes it, kind of like flows through the system a little bit. And everyone can understand from that point that, okay, so we don't need to aspire to be ultra wealthy because technically they're a lot worse off than a lot of people in many different ways. But you could say that they're worse off. So either these people are bad, these people have terrible lives and they feel empty and depressed. These people who have no money and these people who do have money, they're both feeling very empty. So there's almost, then the psychologist is saying, it's really bad. Their kids, we didn't get into it, but their kids also have a lot of different problems of growing up with that kind of wealth, which you can kind of imagine. So basically, the only point I wanted to make here about this was that how it advances humanity, or at least advances this country, or advances this type of demographic where they can actually be open to this boredom. Like boredom, instead of being bored, they start asking, what's the meaning of my life? A little bit, does it open up, does that open it up for them a little bit? Is it helpful for humanity in a kind of way? That's the only question I really wanted to answer here. What
I
benefit
mean,
does this serve?
we would all feel we all feel that if we had tons of money, we would make at least most of our problems go away. In the last generation, Bala Salam says, a beast sees only from himself forward, with no intellect and wisdom. A human can look into the past like looking into a
Hmm.
mirror, and by that correct his future. Chris, the point you said, and you know, it's a problem we have with humanity because we're really such dopes. You know, we should be able to. It's kind of, you know, what you're saying. You get these billionaires; they have more money than God. You know, they have like so much money, so many billions of dollars, and they're not. You know, that would be great if you have the lie detector, the new lie detector. Like, get the like top richest people and be like, "Are you happy? How's it going? You know, do you feel loved? Do you feel that you know you're you know?" And no, of course, the answer is no. But the problem is we need to develop more still. Asaf, maybe you can help talk about that development because the problem we're having with humanity now is like everything's already been done. Everything was cooked. Like the party's like over. We know money does not make you happy. Like we can tell that, right? But and we have a mind and we can look and see that it doesn't
I
work,
think
but yet we
there.
just
I
keep
think
repeating.
even what's his name? Famous Canadian academic
Jordan
uh,
Peterson.
Peterson?
Jordan Peterson said he quoted some research that's show. I mean, it's not new. There's tons of research about this, like empirical research. But he says, I think that the latest research shows that if you have like in America, you know, he's talking about a specific demographic. If you have like 60 or $70,000 annually, annual income, something like that, and you're good with like the basic stuff you need, anything beyond that does not make you happy. Helps you in life, yes, does not make you happy, does not make the quality of your life better. That's the bottom line of it. The the interesting thing here is the misconception that we, all the non-billionaires, are living in. The world still thinks that that's what we should achieve. These guys are the epitome of human, the crowning achievement of humanity. You know, that's what you should become. That's
But
what we should
it's
be.
almost stuck in us. Like if you were walking through the airport and you saw
Talking
Jeff
about
Bezos or
lies, huh?
Elon
Talking
Musk,
about,
you would, yeah, but it's something in the air too, man. If you were
yeah,
walking past them, there's an air about them. There's something you would feel something like, oh, whoa. You know, there's like if you walk past like a
yes,
very the last wolf in the pack, or you walk past the front wolf in the pack, it's a different energy. You know, there's something that immediately, like, why can't we just, a good point. Why can't we just see something, understand it, and then change our behavior from it? We can't. We need to like stick our hand in the fire ourselves. You know, how do we? There's no coercion in spirituality. Why are you saying like? Why are you wagging your head? No, we don't. Of course we
because
do.
because
Look
they're,
outside, man. Every
yeah,
country is just fighting with each other. Every place you go, everyone's unhappy.
yeah, but
Why are you
um
wagging your head about it?
because uh it can't be, it can't be that each and every human being out of the 8 billion that exist today, right? It can't be that in order for them to evolve spiritually, they're going to have to become billionaires as well on the way to understand that it's futile. There has to be a spreading of consciousness, a rippling effect of consciousness that happens where we go through it. Each and every human being goes through it in a conscious way without actually spending all this time and effort into, you know, and also it's unrealistic. The, you know what I mean? Um, so that's what I was waving my head around about. So that's that's what it comes down to. I think the moment we go through a social value shift, spiritually, with a spiritual goal in mind, And that has to start from people like ourselves, the people who actually have a different goal that is beyond materialism, that is beyond the corporeal reality altogether. People who are looking for balance on the level of this corporeal material reality, get everything you need, even have it abundantly there, but your passion, your action in life is about achieving a higher goal, a goal that is beyond matter itself. When that reaches a critical mass, I think human beings will begin to, even if they weren't billionaires, they'll begin to see that it's futile. And then, what all of the science that already
I mean, we,
shows
we all
this.
get tastes of that sometimes, you know? We all get
Mhm.
tastes of that. You know, I don't know. I'm trying
Yeah.
to think of like an example when, but we sometimes get that feeling of like, I don't need anything. Like this is it. If like I died right now, like I would be good. So we get tastes of it, but then something awakens in us again. Right.
Yeah,
So we
yeah. The
need,
next,
Yeah.
the bill from the IRS.
Yeah.
I need some more
Um,
money. I need a little bit more money. I mean, people are always going to have those problems, so it's always going to be confusing. Like, okay, but I do need more money because life is like giving me, some
Kabbalah
problems that.
talks about in the last generation. He says that after it's done, after you achieve the first altruistic nation, he says one nation needs to start with it, and after that nation becomes an altruistic nation, then the nations between them will even become altruistic, meaning the one who has more materials and the other one has more brain power and whatever, they all work between each other until all of Earth, every single person on Earth has all of their needs met to whatever level they need them met. So
yeah.
you could do it the Chinese way, the socialist way, the Stalin way, where you just have everyone stand in line to get 2 rolls of toilet paper each or whatever, or through the right kind of education.
Wait, you said you can do it, but you can't do it. You can
Well,
try to do it and fail. Yes.
can you can. I mean,
And
there's
fail
study
miserably because that
fail
will create
miserably. A lot of people
upheaval.
die,
Yeah.
but right,
Yes.
but that's the way we're going now, because of we're not adding enough love yet into the system, and nature is pushing us towards understanding how to share everything. So we have to do it from the side of care. Um, but he does talk about that future world in the article, The Last Generation, where all of the countries. But how we're definitely, we need a lot more lies before we get there, because in that, if Chris needs 5,000 calories a day and I only need 4,000 and Asaf, you only need 3,500, then the government or whoever, the drone is going to drop off the best food that we can get. Great, perfect food, but Chris's box is going to be bigger than mine and mine's going to be bigger than yours, and we're all going to be okay with it because that's all we need. It's
That requires spiritual development. There's no way out way out of it. Any kind of balancing act on the corporeal level has to be coupled with a spiritual development on a higher level. That's what I'm seeing, because at the end of the day, it's very simple. We humans are divided to two parts. We have the animal part of us, the body, and what it needs and what it wants, and we have the human part. And the human part will never be fulfilled by matter. End of story. That's what you see with the super rich. They have all the abundant material, the material abundance in the world that the world can offer, and they're unhappy, depressed, wrapped in mistrust. He also talks about how they feel shame and guilt. By the way, it's important to note, because we're always like, we're giving Musk and Bezos and Zuckerberg as the examples. They're not the examples. These are people who are also tech entrepreneurs. They have some ambition in life. They want to do. We're talking about the people that in this case are the people that are mostly unseen. They are the people who just make money from all kinds of ways, but
Blackstone.
they're not necessarily they're not necessarily, I don't know, stock markets, whatever it is, but they made their businesses already, but they don't have an ambition that is tied to their money making situation. And so what they're showing us is you cannot fulfill the human with matter. It just doesn't work. That realization has to be there as people adjust their material life. As it, it has to be there in the whole process. If you give up on material things, it cannot be that you're being forced to do it. It has to be that you feel like you are balancing your existence in order to dedicate more of your capacity, your passion, your focus, your time, your effort to spiritual development. So spiritual transformation has to be there, um, as 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 a process that we go through while we are thinking about material changes in our society. Anyway, I hope that was clear, more or less, what I was trying to say.
We keep bouncing up against that this need for a different kind of education. Um, how can we go about that? We're not talking about math and science, but really,
Yeah,
we need to have a new. That's the thing that we might be allowed. We might let people keep their phones on past 10 p.m. You know what I mean? If there was really good spiritual education. Um, and the problems will make us realize we need it. But how can we do that? Bala Salam said that we're not like animals in the sense that we could look at our past like it's a mirror. We could see ourselves. Oh, I need to fix my hair here. Like, oh, look at what I did there. That didn't work out. But
it's
you don't.
up it's up to us at the end of the day. By
We're
us, I
not doing
mean
a good enough job yet. We're
I mean,
not
I
doing a
mean, the
good enough
people, we're
job.
not doing a good enough job yet. And
I don't know what else to do. That's so
every
frustrating.
day, every day, a Kabbalist, tells himself that he's not doing a good enough job if he's looking at the world and seeing the whole world as a part of him. But I'm saying that all the people who are spiritually awakened, the people who are listening to this conversation, the people who are with us in this desire to rise above this initial level of human life, there's so much more for us to explore on a spiritual dimension of existence. The people who are looking for that, I think that the big change is going to come from them. It's going to start there. And when we begin to, if you take all those spiritual seekers, if we begin to inspire each other about that higher level of existence, then that will become such a force that will enable us to transcend our bodily existence. The human can do that. That's what we need to activate between us. Anyway, I don't know. I'm looking at your faces. I don't know if we. Now I'm seeing what's happening. We're out of time. Now I understand.
I'm out of time and frustrated.
It is frustrating, but at the same time, this is our development. It's also annoying to be in third grade when you know that there's fifth graders who are, bigger than you, and you also have to go through fourth grade, and then you also have to do fifth grade. But you can't just jump to fifth grade. You just can't do it. So we might as well learn as much as we can about ourselves in order to, give the next generation behind us what it is they need in order to make the best steps possible, the most correct steps. It's just kind of looking out for our next us.
All right.
We laughed. We cried.
We blew our nose.
All right, guys, I don't know what our next step is. We need to figure out how we're going to make this even more clear, how we're going to come to this education and how we can do it. Obviously, we don't have billions of people who are interested in this. So in the meantime, we need to be qualitatively on such a high level. We need to be doing this at such a high level pushing this love, pushing this connection, all the things that everyone who's thinking about, wouldn't it be great if it was like that? We need to be doing that in our actual lives, not once a week. And I hope that we see some real good results soon. That even between us, if we start doing it with just a few people, we'll see results in the world. People will start to wake up.
It's like that. It's like that fish
Yes.
that was like trying to squirt, and maybe it jumped on land, and maybe it thought it wanted to live on land, and then it died. But then another one followed, and they started. This is evolution. It's pretty. It's big.
Yeah,
There's
right.
our teacher, Michael Lightman, says it very nicely that influence we influence the world through underground channels. That's something we need to take into account. Reality is not as it seems. All the stuff that we see in front of our eyes, people and things and politics and the news and what's happening to the climate and all of that, that is all a performance of nature. It's a charade. It's the outer layer, the most superficial layer of existence. What's really happening is the desire of mankind is evolving until it actually wants what nature has to give to it, which is unlimited abundance, unlimited pleasure, but with a completely new twist of it on it, a twist of love and bestowal. And let's aim for that, focus on our intention, the world will follow. Do it.
See you next time.
Thursday, 2 p.m.
Yes.
We learn to serve the world and give that love
Thursday.
back to every person from every nation, a light to them. We are the nation, correction lies in the love of friends. The world immersed in that hatred, on us it all depends. We got the remedy, connect and see the world as friends.
Finna get it flowing, now we in them in a rhythm. Making me turn, I wonder how we feel them. Hit them in the riddle, the middle's revealing. Up in them when the villain pull a mask off. Intermittently, pumping on my chest, I wanna feeling these enemies. I'll be the bitter where they sending me. Evidently, reinventing me, he embedded me, remedied. Finna get it flowing, now we in them in a rhythm. Making me turn, I wonder how we feel them. Hit them in the riddle, the middle's revealing. Up in them when the villain pull a mask off. Intermittently, pumping on my chest, I wanna feeling these enemies. I'll be the bitter where they sending me. Evidently, reinventing me, he embedded me, remedied. Now we all know what divinity.
Love of the world to be one with them, to reach the light with no end, bringing contentment to him through the love of friends. Let connection begin.